we do lots of different things. You know, we are really adaptable as a company. It's not just, right, this is what we do, like some of the bigger fulfillment companies.
You can have, and we've all sat there and we've had really profitable times, and we sit there and go, oh, this is brilliant, aren't we doing well? But actually, going back to that original comment that said you've got to be an expert at finance, you've got to be an expert at logistics, you've got to be an expert at social media.
Hi and welcome to Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. This podcast is specifically for business owners or wannabe business owners. Say you've got a side hustle or you've got a passion for something and you think it'd be absolutely amazing, or you see people that do amazing things with their passions and what they enjoy doing. Well, you can do that. So please subscribe and we hope you enjoy listening to this episode. Hi and welcome to Breakout Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. So today we have the very special and very lovely Phil and Sue Tetley, which is very special because they're both in the same room at the same time. This never ever happens. For those that have listened to one of our first podcasts, which is Breakout Story, Phil was actually we say the silent partner. He's not very silent, as you'll find out. He's quite loud, but he was one of the reasons that we started Breakout together. So we met on a park bench. That sounds weird if you don't put context behind it, doesn't it?
Second lockdown.
Yeah. In second lockdown, we met for a socially distanced coffee on a park bench and decided, I was like, should we start a co-working space? So Phil and I have done a few things work together. And Phil, being like me, fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you look at it, it's like, yeah, why not? Because we're very much of the same mindset of, well, we'll give it a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. As I say at the beginning, at least we've tried to do it and seen how it goes. So welcome, Phil and Sue.
Hello. Hello.
So today they are here with their new company. How long has it been?
About just over a year.
Just over a year, which is OS Suffolk. So I will get Phil to explain the name as well. And just to talk about a bit about them, a bit about their business, and a bit about their story, as we always do. So, explain OS Suffolk for me.
So we're a fulfilment company. So what's fulfilment? So I guess if you look at it, if you think about someone like Amazon, which is probably the biggest fulfilment company you can possibly get, we do the bit that's effectively once you buy something online, we do the pick, the pack, and then the post. So we have loads and loads of products in from different companies. Orders come in on a sort of like hour by hour, minute by minute basis. And then we're pulling those together, wrapping them, making sure that they're in a fit state to go to customer, and then sending those off through various different sort of like parcel networks, whether it's Royal Mail, UPS, DPD, whatever, and hopefully to get it to the customer in the quickest possible time.
Awesome. And why OS Suffolk? What's the story behind the name?
Well, anyone who knows Phil knows that he never wears socks that match.
Paused a bit too long. Phil never wears socks that match.
Well done, Sue. Yes. I think actually we both got, you can't really see, but I've actually given up as well, because literally we have a whole
sock mountain,
and it's just, I've just given up. It took me a lot longer to give up than you. And Jessica's given up as well, our little girl. She had some remarkable odd socks on yesterday. They were like completely different colours and not even the same length. So yeah, we're all on board. All on board with the odds, because everyone's like, OS? What? Yeah. So that's where it can. And I suppose in the deeper context, it's like we do lots of different things. You know, we are really adaptable as a company. It's not just, right, this is what we do, like some of the bigger fulfillment companies. We are, we're friendly, we're supportive, we nurture our clients, and it is like odd socks. It's not just about the socks. I think it does match our ethos as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think Sue's right in terms of there's almost a stereotypical thing that tells you that you've got to wear a pair of matching socks. And in business, when you look at whatever we do, whether it's fulfillment or whether it's consultancy or whatever, there's almost a mold that you have to fit into.
Yeah.
And part of what we said is, look, we don't really care about that mould. If you want to come to us and you're a small business and none of the big boys will touch you, then that's fine. If you want to come to us and you want something completely different doing, none of the big boys will touch you, that's what we're there for.
Yeah, and I think it's having worked in that kind of background, but from a buyer point of view, you do get that you'll speak to the big boys sometimes and they're like, well, you have to fit in this box. And, well, I don't fit in the box, so what are you going to do about that? Oh, we'll charge you an absolute fortune. Or a case of, if you look, and it's quite regular on Facebook now, that people post about their Amazon parcels. So you've got a tiny little phone and the box is about that big full of paper. And that's obviously not a good thing in today's environment. So, yeah, it's I think that's, from what I obviously know about the business, is you're not going to force anyone to fit in the same box as another client. Actually, it's working to the client's needs rather than to your needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
that's your point of difference.
So like my background, sort of like very corporate world, FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, always worked within the food industry for some of the big players. And as I've got older, I've got a little bit more fed up with being told what to do. And actually have a brain and think and be able to use it and actually work with companies to grow. And I think that's the interesting thing, is most of the companies that we work with, we actually get to know their business really well, because actually we're understanding what their sort of like aims are and what they're trying to do, and we try and put our mark on it as well. So we don't just sit there and go, right, okay, we're going to do this. We'll actually offer suggestions as well on how you can improve things, etc. And using that background that we've got,
which you wouldn't get in the bigger fulfillment companies, and also just getting the really small micro businesses, maybe the side hustle businesses, that they're really passionate about something they do, but they might be like doing it, they've got a day job, and they just think, I can't use a fulfillment company, I'm too small. And they don't think that anyone can help them, because they just think, oh, no, I need to send out hundreds of thousands of products a week to use somebody. So we're trying to change that mindset and go, well, actually, this is what we do. If you are sending out thousands and thousands a week, probably not the right partnership for you, but we're there to we can help you grow. And if you grow, we
and actually, it's that point of, it's a bit like similar to us with Breakout. It's, when do you outsource that point? And our argument is always, you outsource when it's your weakness. So if you've got someone sat there packing boxes in their living room because it is their side hustle, and then they don't have time to promote, they're not updating the website, they're not sourcing better products, then at what point in what part of the business do you outsource that? And if it's 9 times out of 10, they're not going to start that business because they love picking and packing. Otherwise, they'd have a fulfillment company. So
it's a lot of people's pain point, and it's, the feedback we've got is like, oh, thanks so much. You've taken so much stress away from our business. They just want to do what they love to do and why they chose to do their own business. And then the hassle of finding the right boxes and like working out how to do the postage and having time to go and take it somewhere when you've got a full-time job is, it's just a hassle for them. So they're just like, it's such a relief, isn't it?
And I think with any business, and it's the same with Breakout, is you have to be an expert in everything. You have to be an expert in marketing. You have to be an expert in finance. You're literally doing everything. And I think sometimes you have to take that sort of like that step back to look at your business and go, well, actually, I'm spending 2 hours a week parceling up 10 parcels. Well, if I look at that from a non-value add activity, it's a non-value add activity. It's money that it's costing me that I can't be doing on things that I actually want to do, like marketing or things like that. So what we try and do when we're working with people and just in those initial conversations is just sort of say, look, what could you be doing with your time? Because then you can then grow your business, and effectively we then get the economies of scale, because you're trying to pack at home and you're trying to do 5 parcels in a day. You have to have boxes, you have to have tape, you have to have everything in place, whereas we've got packing stations that you can just put everything onto. So it's a lot quicker for us, which is how we then make our money. But the amount of time that it frees up then hopefully allows that business to grow.
Yeah, and I think people look at things as because it's always that time saving side of things, because you forget, don't you, we have similar with social media. Some people are like, oh, I can do my social media myself, I'm doing my social media. I was like, okay, how long does it take you? Oh, well, it can take me like 2 hours to do a post. I'm like, we can probably schedule a good couple of weeks in a couple of hours. Yes, you'll be paying us to do that, and it's not money you're paying out, but actually, what could you do in that 2 hours? Well, instead of sending out 5 boxes, you could be promoting and speaking to like another 5, 10, 100, 1,000 different customers. So it's that time versus cost.
It's understanding when to scale up.
Yeah.
And how to do it, and to get that support. It's impossible to do everything all at once.
Yeah. So why did you start your own business? Why did you start OS Suffolk specifically?
I think I started.
We've started a lot of businesses, but why this one? I mean, we can talk about more.
I think this is our third together. We've had 2 together, and I think they're always born from trying to do better. I think. As I alluded to earlier, I've done 25 years experience working with some of the biggest companies in the world, so like the likes of Pepsi, which is fantastic, and I loved it. But you get to a point that goes, well, actually, you're always following somebody else's advice. You're always trying to appeal to shareholders, or you're trying to do X, Y, Z. And as I've got older, and certainly when our little girl came along, I think it got me questioning a little bit more the values in terms of what I do. And I've worked for a couple of companies where, on the scheme of it, have very good values, but actually, when you get into the real nitty-gritty of it, actually, does it do exactly what it says on the tin? Yeah. And I think sometimes what I found is when things get tough, sometimes it's those values that drop out. Yeah. So effectively, when was it? June 2022. Got to a point that just went, right, I'm going to step away from a very comfortable paycheck in the corporate world. I was running a factory at the time, 300 people, so a sizable operation. And I think it was one of those bits that sort of like said, right, how do we grow as a family? How do we take control of what we want to do? How do we move away from this 23 days holiday that you're completely constrained by? Yeah. Although sitting now, I think, how do we get a holiday? Yeah. But it's being in control and being able to do the things that really matter, like going to parents, so like parents' activity at school with Jessica and things like that. So it was really a case of, right, what we're going to do. So we had sort of like the summer off, spent time travelling around sort of like Northern Europe, just having lots of fun and making lots of memories. And then really it was a case of there's another side to the business as well as the fulfilment, which is I do consultancy work, which enables the rest of the business to grow. And it was just sitting there and thinking, right, how can we grow a business in the right way, treating people right, being responsible from an environmental point of view. And that very much started sort of like building slowly, and then Sue came along when it became apparent that we couldn't.
Yeah. Sue appeared.
Yeah.
If it was going to grow, I said, you can't do this on your own anymore. It's going to fail. And we can't afford to employ anybody else at the moment. So I put my kind of stuff.
Put your hat into the ring.
Chuck my hat into the ring, even though, I mean, you know, my background, I was a paediatric nurse for 13 years. And then I've been kind of helping people with their mental well-being with a Thrive program. My Sue Tetley Wellness, which is kind of fitness mindset, and open water swimming courses with a friend. But I kind of put a lot of that on hold because I thought, well, I'm pretty much there full time in the warehouse, and it terrified me initially. I was like, I've never done this. I've never worked in a factory. I've never worked in a warehouse. I had serious imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I think there's a couple of points there, because I think it's really important, considering you've been a paediatric nurse. And I remember Phil telling me that he'd come home from work, be like, what happened? Oh, this machine broke. And he'd rant for half an hour, 40 minutes. How was your day? Oh, well, we lost a patient today. It's like, whoa, hang on a second. So for you to say then you had imposter syndrome, going into a fulfilment company when you're picking and packing, I think it's just a good point to make that we're not all fantastic at everything as the start and to get going. So there's always that doubt, that mindset, and I think you've done so much work. It was obviously easier to overcome that side of things.
Challenge that. I mean, I just.
But also, we don't all start amazing at everything. You don't go into a business going, oh, I know how to, a bit like this podcast. If you rewind back to my first one, it's like, oh yeah, she sounds a bit wooden. But it's just starting and just doing it.
And just going out your comfort zone and accepting that, and accepting like I don't know, but actually prepared to learn, and actually taking, sort of listening to Phil, which, we don't really listen to each other at home. And he never tells me anything exciting and juicy like that. That's why you just know that you need to contact me separately. But and it's like, okay, he does know what he's talking about. He has got like.
How many years has it taken? Right. So just as a bit of background, us three are probably never nice to each other's faces. We're nice behind our backs, however, not so much. You get the sarcasm and the dry sense of humour.
For me to say that, and it's recorded. It's
recorded. It's there for life now.
It's like, okay, he knows this is his like world, and I'm coming into it, and I do need to learn what to do. So but then Phil explained to me, he said, well, actually, look, if you take the skills that you've got, that you've learned, as a nurse, and how you break processes down and how you actually do things, there are so many similarities, and also things like I was a manual handling link trainer. I know how to pick stuff up without breaking myself. So
know to bend your knees.
I know how to do all that. So actually breaking it down, I realised, and I do know, and actually compared to like looking after kids with cancer and the huge pressure and doing all the drugs and doing all the chemo, I'm only packing boxes, and if I make a mistake, it's not going to damage somebody. It's like, get perspective back.
I think that was going to be so my second point is that actually that's why you guys do work really, really well together, because on the face of it, it's like, oh, I've started a business and it's a husband and wife team. It's like, okay, good luck.
Good luck.
But then, because you're not together 24, the fact we've got two of you in the same room together is quite a big thing to start with. But actually, it's more the fact that you've got such different strengths and weaknesses in that way. And like you say, it's that perspective, because it can be difficult. And we have it here of just when that client, something's gone wrong, and it's always how you fix it. But that's where you'll bring the mindset of just like, you know what, let's just calm down, let's take a step back. And it's all that work you've done for so many years to go, no, okay, let's learn from it, let's do this. When actually it could be a fact, you could just run around like headless chickens trying to chase tails, and you end up kind of being a busy fool sometimes when you do that.
And I think that's what, I bring that, like that mindset side, and also that perspective with the the nursing side. Like, it can never be as hard as that, with all the emotions and all the, the complicated things we had to do. And it's just remembering that and to like,
I think there's two things from my point of view. Is one's transferable skills, that actually when you're taking somebody on, or when you're growing or working together, etc., look deeper than just I need somebody that can go and pack boxes. Actually look, and you've done it with Nisha at Breakout, who's come from a retail background, and it's amazing. Because you look further than the actual role, and looked at the person themselves, and then encourage that person to grow and have their input and support them and trust them, because trust is the key bit around any business. And then I think the second bit, and the one thing that we try and do with companies, is go, look, it's all right if you make a mistake. Just don't bury your head in the sand. Work through it. And actually, I think sometimes if you've got that openness and honesty, actually it's respected a whole lot more than putting the shutters up and sort of like just ignoring everything. So we will get things wrong, but actually, how do we work it together? And then how do we also keep ourselves sane? so like the last 2 weeks, it's just been manic. I think we've done 14 hour days every day for 14 days. But Saturday was a case of, right, we're just going to work, and our little girl comes and gets involved. And then Sunday, it's switch off and just have, right, phones are off, emails are off. Anybody wants to get in touch, well, you're going to have to come and knock on our door. But,
and actually, I think it's all right to switch off. That's the important thing. Because I think it's so often we see as rest as a reward. And this is where Sue will know this better than all of us, of just, it's not a reward. You actually do have to rest. You do have to switch off. And as tempting as it is to keep going and working, and I think as well with us having, you either have the parent guilt or the work guilt or the self-care guilt. Whatever you're doing, you're feeling guilty because you're not doing the other two. And it's, I don't know, we kind of need to flip that. And I think it's like you said, when you're referring back to where you've worked for big corporate companies, I mean, we need to do a separate podcast on the secrets of corporate companies, because the stories that will come out of it.
Be a long podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like the memes come out now. Oh, what? You're overworked and underpaid. Oh, let's have a pizza day. Let's all order pizza into the office. And it is that standing joke. And it is a joke. It is a meme. But at the same time, how many times have we all been in that situation where daily you're not switching off until 9 p.m. at night? You're not going to get any reward for that. Yes, at least in your own business you've got that reward because it's the job satisfaction and you're in control of all of that. But it's that, and it's the same as I've said to Nisha. I said, as long as the work's done, we're not someone who's like, oh, you got in at 9:02, or, oh, what do you mean you want to leave at 4? Not overly bothered. As long as the work's done and we can all work together and cover that, and we're open and honest with each other, it's kind of how work should be. Life's too short to not to spend all that hours.
Sweat the small stuff, than and people who are like micromanaging you and getting really bothered about stuff that it doesn't matter, and it's just silly and superficial, and I think we're working with quite a few companies now, and I think they respect us for like being open and honest and saying, okay, this isn't working, we need to change the packaging. And having a conversation, and which they've never done with the big fulfillment companies. So like, okay.
I think if you look at one of the things I did take from my corporate world, and it's one of the things that Petsy were fantastic with, and you learn from some of the big companies is some of the models, and for me, there's trust that sits at the bottom. If you get your trust right, then that helps in terms of your results, and if you get your results, then you're in the position to be able to challenge. And I think, the other way around. Sorry, the trust, the challenge, then you get the results. And I think that's one of the things that we do. And I think the other bit is then just being able to look at your business and just understand, so where we talked about being head down in the business all the time, actually that's not sustainable over a long period of time. It's all right, and that's why a lot of businesses fail in the first 5 years, because it just becomes impossible.
We need to work on the business. I mean, we've been working in it, and now we've just put our heads above the parapet and come out of this crazy period, and now we're like going, we almost need to kind of like have a debrief, like what's worked, what hasn't worked, what do we need to change, what will work better next time, how can we just be more productive, where we've put things. And we work very differently in terms of where things are placed. Phil's got an amazing memory and he can just remember stuff, but actually it needs to work for like other people in the so it's kind of just learning from that and rearranging stuff.
But it's like when I started Breakout, I had I call them the dog walkers, which is the guys that have early retired, so they used to work in the city, and they're like, oh, what are you doing when I was decorating? Oh, what's your business plan? I just don't want to deal with horrible people. I'm like, what?
Good business plan.
I was like, but I don't, and it's shown in our clients, if we now know, and it's taken us a while, but we now know within sitting with them for 10-15 minutes, are we going to work well together or not? We did have a company. They didn't, no matter what we did, they just didn't trust us. They wanted a bigger company. They didn't want to pay big company money, but they wanted a bigger company, and that's where they've gone now. And I was like, fair play, crack on, go. And they're like, oh, well, you're being quite open, honest, and okay. And I'm like, but I'd rather you go to that company and get a better service that you're more comfortable with than stress and worry about me the whole time. So, and I think that helps.
I think it's the way to do it. We had an inquiry last week, which is a very, very simple product to pack. And ultimately, we said to them, look, we can help you scale up, we can help you in your early days, but you'll get to a point where you need to go into a fulfillment company that's going to pick with robots.
Yeah.
So we were short term. We don't see a long-term relationship, but that, once again, goes back to the trust and that openness and honesty. And you never know quite who's walking through your door next. I think that's one of the fun things for you guys here, and also for ourselves. It's like,
where are you going to inquiries going to come from? So who do you work with? Who are your clients?
It's quite a diverse range, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so we started almost, Lizzie from the Rose Press Garden. So she has an amazing business. We worked together about 5 years ago when we were working in Cambridge, and she left her job and set up her own business. And we've effectively, she was having some challenges around her fulfillment company, and we stepped in and we've been doing that. So that was our starting point. And I think it was the 9th of January, I think we started. I think we've now got 6 or 7 different clients.
Nice.
It's snowballed, hasn't it? And literally, it's the word of mouth.
Yeah.
Because, you do a good job for one, and then they recommend.
Well, it's marketing gold, then, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Word of mouth. That's all you want, really.
And people, Phil's worked with before, that know, like, trust thing, and they go, well, Phil, he knows what he's doing. We respect him, actually, and realising, sort of LinkedIn and stuff, going, oh, this is what you're doing. Oh, actually, I think you might be able to help us. So that's worked really well.
So we've gone from bulbs and seeds, then we've gone to like hand creams, moisturisers, all things I'm really familiar with.
I was going to say, everything you're like, oh yeah,
can't you tell how smooth I am nowadays?
I think you need to use some
smooth
of it.
face.
So Dahlia.
And then interestingly, her supplier then came to us. Actually, it's really strange now because we supply. So we take an ingredient, we send it off to one of our customers, and they send it back for us to then pack it and fulfill it, which is bonkers.
So that's the the B2B stuff.
And then we picked up a really cool medical bag, which is a Suffolk-based company, so that's really nice. And that's the first one working local. And then more recently, we picked up probably our biggest customer so far now is a company called Sweet Freedom. And I think that's one of the things that you get the option. So like companies are getting into supermarkets, they generally only get 1 or 2 different products on, but they might have a range of 20 or 30. And what we enable people to do is then be able to sell all of their range. So you can go and buy this product in any of the supermarkets, but you can't buy the smaller side of things. And that's what we're good at then.
Yeah. And how do you help people like that in terms of, because with my buying head on, sometimes it was good for items being a supermarket. Other times it wasn't, because supermarkets obviously hammer them on buying at cost.
Yeah.
But how do you help in terms of, because ideally those companies want to sell through their own websites and they want the volume through there. So how do you help with?
Yeah, so effectively, if you look at someone like Sweet Freedom, they've got their own website and they use various different media platforms, including TikTok, which I've got no idea about.
Let's get you doing some TikTok. It's Suffolk TikTok dances in the way.
We might need some help with that.
Hilarious.
So everything then comes through into a platform, and there's various different platforms that you can use. Our favourite one's probably someone like Shopify. So we can see all the clients' Shopify orders, and they literally come through instantaneously. And relatively easy to then pick and fulfill, relatively easily. Some of them are challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I think a lot of it is us trying to, so as we take on various different clients, we were talking earlier, we've got one client that literally, and it's our Suffolk-based one, that an order can come in from America, and their system, they spent so much time setting up the basics behind the system that literally, if an order came in from America, it'd print off the label, it'd print off the customs declaration, and everything's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it makes life really, really easy for us, where we've got some customers that it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But that's where then working together that says, and we've just come out of the back of a really tough 2 weeks where we've been working long hours. But actually, we can go and look at it and say, right, how do we do this differently next year?
Yeah.
How do we learn from the mistakes that both of us have made?
Yeah.
To understand and to make the process as simple as possible. And then what we've started doing is we've got like WhatsApp groups with various different customers.
Yeah.
So we're really open from a pricing point of view, etc. So we don't mind our customers talking to each other because everybody gets the same price.
Yeah.
But what enables them to do is say, oh right, how do we set up our Shopify account? How do we do weights, etc.? How do we do first class postage, second class postage? What do you do when you get to a 3 kilo parcel or a 2.1 kilo parcel, which is a time when your price starts going up. So it's all trying to learn to ultimately make each of our businesses as profitable as possible.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting because people come up with the idea. So you think, right, okay, I want to sell like pens. We've got some pens. We're going to sell some pens and some folders. We're going to do pens. We're going to be stationary. That's great. Or people might do personalised pens, so they might engrave them. But I think people are like, right, I've got that. I can sell it. I can put it on a website, I've got my orders, then what? And I think that's when people hit a stumbling block, don't they? They're like, well, how do I charge? Because that company, and you do your market research, that company charges free delivery. How do they charge free delivery when the post office is going to charge me like £3 an order to go out? Well, then you put in your minimum order charge or whatever. But that's the lack of knowledge, and I think that's their stumbling block. Or a lot of people, especially when they're setting up a side hustle because they've got this natural talent for bespoke pens, of well, that eats away my profit anyway, or I'm going to have to charge like £50 for this pen. No one's going to pay £50 for it. And I think all too often people will like there's loads and loads in the last 5-10 years dropship companies spring up, so they're obviously buying off of like Alibaba or whatever, so and you can tell because the delivery is going to be 2 weeks or whatever, but at the same time people don't want to wait 2 weeks. They're used to Amazon Prime, which is never next day anymore. Whenever I look at it, I'm paying $7.99 a month and it's never an option the next day anymore. What happened to that? But I think that's when you're manufacturing or producing or buying something in, that's what they struggle with. So to get that for you to say, yep, it will be X for this, Y for this, and actually you can then talk about people that have been doing this for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's such an additional, it's that when I used to do negotiations, it's that added service, isn't it, of it's not going to cost you anything, but this is a massive added service that you're going to get for free effectively.
Yeah, completely agree.
Exactly, rather than like literally doing the bare minimum, like you want us to fulfill stuff, fine, but we won't tell you, we won't give you any advice. We'll charge you that, but that's just what we do, and it helps us as well, doesn't it, to get it right and to have really good communication.
I think that's the biggest thing, it's communication, isn't it? Because you don't, with the big companies, you get this business development manager come in, oh yeah, well I can do that for £5 a parcel, giving it all the chat, and then you're like, okay, we're set up, we're ready to go. And we've had people in and they've signed a year, 2 year, 3 year deal. They're 6 months down the line, they've got problems like can't get hold of anyone. It's like, well, yeah, you've gone into this like telesales big thing and they don't care. They don't care, which sounds really harsh, but they don't care.
You've got a sales consultant that's commission based.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting in terms of one of our clients moved to us just purely because when something goes wrong, they can't solve it.
No.
And that massively impacts their business. And you're looking for you're constantly looking for repeat business. And if you can't get that, then customers will go somewhere else.
Yeah. And it is, and I think you've got to remember that things will go wrong. It's not all plain sailing. It's that social media effect. Everything's great, everything's brilliant, because not everyone posts the failures. But I think there's not a failure. Until you quit, it's not a failure, but you've just got to learn from it.
Nobody tells you when you've done right.
No.
Or very few people.
Number of clients I don't hear from for months. You post up one thing, they're like, I hate that post. Like, that's brilliant. But can you just like say, oh,
All the rest of the posts have been amazing.
yeah. No. It's that same feedback thing, isn't it? You've had a bad experience, you'll tell 10 people. If you've had a good experience, you might tell one if you're lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And you only tend to tell somebody if somebody comes and asks you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's one thing we really, trying to counteract. And again, I suppose it's that like my background is good for that. Come on, we need to keep saying, keep doing that, and it's not fair. It's like, okay, it's not yet, that kind of not yet attitude of, and we've got a WhatsApp group with every client, so it's not like email, snail mail. It's like we can get a quick,
what's going on,
or what do you want us to do about this, and then we'll get a quick response to an issue that we've got. So
100%. And I think because we were talking about it at our networking meeting about customer service, and I said the thing is, and we were talking about retail shops, and we did a whole podcast on the shops and the high street, and I said the problem being is you've lost that customer service. You try and ring someone from Amazon, you try and ring someone from Microsoft. Again, why Microsoft will never ring you and ask for money. You can't get hold of these big companies for love nor money. So if you walk into a shop and you make those customers feel good about themselves, they know what's going on, they're understood, they're happy, they will pay more for it.
Yeah.
And they will recommend you and send people to you.
And generally speaking, people are brand loyal for some of the big brands, and you can effectively, I know certainly in terms of where I work for one of the big biscuit companies, and you could be making your own brand and your own supermarket brand and your own brand almost identical, but you're still going to that brand that you trust, and companies spend a huge amount of money in terms of trying to get that bit right. We don't have the budgets, but you can still make sure that actually every customer leaves as satisfied as they can be. And if you can't satisfy them, then probably better off not being a customer.
They're the customers. That's what I said to someone a couple of weeks ago. They're setting up brand new, and they were saying about saying yes to everyone. I went, do not say yes to everyone. If you get a feel for someone and they're not your people, because there's still people that they just buy online. They don't care about that brand or that shop or that person. They just want as cheap as possible. They then want to moan about it. And we use the example in the Shop Local podcast of McDonald's. How many people get an order mucked up at McDonald's, still go back for their Big Mac? However, you walk into a restaurant or a coffee shop down here, oh my word, you won't darken their door again because they messed up a bacon sandwich. And you're like, well, hang on a second, where is this? And it comes down to brand loyalty. People have just got that taste for the posh biscuits rather than supermarket, to the point they'll try, if they blind tasted it would be different, but if they bought it already, the packet's telling them it's not as nice, it's not as good. And that's quite a thing to get over.
Even though the same company might make them. And it's just, blind taste,
exactly,
you wouldn't know the difference.
Apart from when they've got a special ingredient like Coke. Could be Pepsi. So what's your biggest success to date? Oh, you looked at Sue as if you were going to go, bringing Sue on board.
Obviously, of course it is, Phil.
Yeah, we're still going. we're 12 months in and still growing, I think.
We're still going. I mean, honestly, it's like it's like a bit of a snowball effect. I mean, we've had so many inquiries the last couple of weeks. And it's like, we're so busy, but it's great. It's good busy.
I think that is probably the success, that we've grown organically. And we've grown through recommendation. So there's nothing apart from obviously doing our social media posts and things like that. And I use LinkedIn, and Sue does the other sort of like social media. TikTok dances, absolutely.
I know Nisha's trying to, she's like, you should go on TikTok. There's nobody who does the stuff. Well, maybe we'll have a conversation at some point.
Set up some time lapses.
But I think just growing organically, I think is probably that biggest success. And when we took over Sweet Freedom, that was a big high five moment. It was quite emotional, actually, in terms of just getting to that point that says, wow, we've
Because this isn't a small business.
No, it's a brand on the shelves. You recognise it.
Yeah.
and to take it off one of the major, well-known fulfilment companies is massive for us. So that, and once again goes back to trust.
Yeah.
That okay, yes, we've got connections in terms of we work with people within the business, but actually they trust us enough from my time in the corporate world and then what we've been doing. And things don't come about easy. We spent 6 months talking to them before we actually got the work, and lots of sort of like trips up to Yorkshire to sort it out. So, but yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing that's.
And that work, and that just keep going, that persistent effort, and you know it's not a linear thing, is it, success? But we are, the hard work is paying off, and we're going in the.
I think that's the important thing to note as well. It took 6 months from first conversation to landing the contract. I think people think, and we have people come in, oh, I've set up my Facebook page, but no one's liked it. All right, have you told anybody about it then? Oh, well, there you go then. You just have to shout and keep having those conversations. And you're not going to have a sale overnight.
No.
It just doesn't happen.
And I think as well, and it all depends what your client base is, but we're now talking to people that is sort of like Q2, so Easter time of 2024.
Yeah.
So you constantly, as a small business, you're trying to go, right, actually, have we got the space? Have we got the capability to do that? Can we build that into our model?
Yeah.
That's quite challenging.
But at least you've got till Easter, rather than someone going, oh, can you take some before Christmas? And by the way, we've got a Christmas rush. And that's when it's like, well, actually, no, we can't. Because it's so chicken and egg from, like you said earlier, about taking on staff, and that's always been our biggest hurdle. Well, I've got enough work to take on staff. I haven't got enough income to take on staff. And that's the pit. I mean, it's that tipping point, isn't it? It's like when it gets too much for us full time, and obviously, school runs, all that sort of stuff, and also having time to have meetings, to talk to people. Yeah. But when it gets to the point in which we can't handle that, we're going to have to, and it's going to be that weighing it up of, can we afford it? But we can't grow unless we do, and invest in. You've had that. But that goes back to them finding the right person as well, because if you find the right person, you'll soon know that they're the best fit for the company. You can trust them. You know the work's going to be done, because there's nothing worse than taking someone on for 2-3 weeks and then you need someone else and we have a few clients like that. They just had nightmare with staff, and then that takes up managing people, such a big part of your day. Massive energy sapper as well, isn't it? And it's a and actually for us to even start contemplating this is a massive achievement. Even from a couple of months ago, it's like, wow, we're actually having this conversation, and it's a big deal to even think about taking on your first staff member and to get it right. I think people don't realise when you've got a small business, and we've talked about it lots in terms of you customers who are coming through the door are paying your mortgage. Yeah. They're paying your shopping. Yeah. And that's, a lot of people forget that, and I think it's one of those bits. It's really challenging, and when you then look to take somebody on, or you trust somebody within your own business, they can kill your business very quickly, but they can also build it really quickly. And I think that is one of the tough bits. Yeah, well, it's like we still get people in here asking us for the minute we say about charging them, they're like, "What?" Like, we're not a charity. We're not government funded. This is actually a business, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that." It's like, well, that's fine, but at the same time, you have to pay for things. You wouldn't go into Waitrose and go, oh, do you know what? Can I just have me shopping for free this week? Yeah, so. And I think what they don't really see is all that experience behind the scenes. Yeah. It's like yourself and Andy, and you've all built up that over time, and that hasn't occurred for free. We are good at fulfilment because we've worked in fulfilment. Absolutely. Yeah. So. Yeah, you've got that 25 years of
experience that you built up. And
What would you say your biggest challenge or learning's been so far?
I think initially in the early days is chasing the order.
Yeah.
So effectively, it's important. So it's obviously important that you get customers in, and it's trying to price it, and I think that's the hardest thing. And like, we still get it wrong. It's still challenging. Have we got exactly the right pricing model? I don't know. We keep reviewing that.
Yeah.
When you're small, yes, it may be all right, but does that fit when you're a medium size?
Yeah.
So I think, look, in the last couple of weeks, we've effectively worked for nothing,
Yeah.
because we got a little bit of pricing wrong, and it was far more complicated than what we did. But you can sit there and moan about it. You can't escape it. You just put in the hours.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we switched off on Sunday and had a family day, and you crack back on with it.
Yeah.
But effectively, even yesterday while we were travelling and the little one was sat playing games and things like that, was like, right, how do we make sure that we don't do that again?
Yeah. I think you can think clearer as well. When you've had that break and that rest, it gives you a bit of a different perspective as well, because when you're in the mix of it,
you can't,
your mindset's not there, is it? But when you've taken a bit breath and you're driving or whatever, you're like, oh, okay,
that didn't work. We need to make some changes because,
there's quite a nice sort of like visual analogy that I got taught quite a long time ago about, look, you're on the floor with your troops, and you get really embroiled in that. But every now and again, as a leader, you need to get into the helicopter and take an aerial view and have a look. And I think whether you do that between us, whether we can get far enough away, and we've had plenty of times where we've just sort of like, right, let's have a coffee, let's offload, and being able to do that with various different businesses or individuals and things like that. I was away with friends the other weekend. It's like, right, okay, challenge me, ask me why I do some things, and I was like, well, yeah, that doesn't really make sense, does it?
Well, that's what I've always said to Nisha and people that've worked with us beforehand. If you ask me something, we're a small business, why do you do it that way? If it's because we've always done it that way, that's the wrong answer. You need to, I'd rather you ask and check to challenge me and keep me on my toes, because actually it might be, well, why don't you do this way and cut it out X, Y, and Z? You're like, oh, just never thought about it. Such a routine, and that's how I've always done it. And and things do. Everything changes, whether it's with the seasons, the volumes, whatever it is, it's constantly changing. So.
I once met a business guru when I had my own business 20 years ago, and he said, if you're still doing the same thing as you were 2 years ago, you're destined for failure. You've got to constantly reinvent yourself, because otherwise somebody will see that you're successful, come and copy it. Come and jump in. And it's like yourselves. If somebody sees that it's going really, really well, there'll suddenly be another unit comes up and offering business support services, etc. So it's constantly thinking and doing something different.
So what's your current biggest challenge in the business? What
Definitely Sue.
Sue's a challenge. Now it's coming out. Now it's all coming out. Just walk out, Sue. Have a just walk out. When we had to be like retail buyers, you had to do the whole arms in your hair, storm out the meeting, big drama,
slam the door, and then you're like, oh, what do I need to do?
What do we do now?
What do we do now?
How does this work?
How does this?
I think there's two. I think one is economies of scale. So effectively, you go in and price something, and use cardboard boxes, for example. We use a lot of cardboard boxes, but we don't use a lot of cardboard boxes compared with some of our competition. And effectively, you could go and have a look and say, right, if I buy 10 pallets of cardboard boxes, the price 20p per unit, and I can buy it on credit. We're a small company, so to buy exactly the same boxes, it's costing us 60p per box. But people have got the expectation that a cardboard box is going to cost 20p. So we then have to have a look at it and say, right, do we take that out of our profit margin? And we're not getting credit because we're a small company with no history, etc. Or do we push the price up? And if we push the price up, then actually we'll lose the customers because postage costs are really key. And I think then, likewise for any small business, cash flows always going to be a challenge. You can have, and we've all sat there and we've had really profitable times, and we sit there and go, oh, this is brilliant, oh, we're doing well. But actually, going back to that original comment that said you've got to be an expert at finance, you've got to be an expert at logistics, you've got to be an expert at social media, you get to that point and you go, forgot that bit.
Yeah, forgot that bit. Whereas in the corporate world, you've got an expert with every single thing, or multiple experts, but small business, you have to do it all, or you find somebody who can do the thing that you're struggling with, and owning and accepting that, and going, actually, don't bury your head in the sand. If you're struggling, get help.
I think it's really interesting. You work almost, it favours the bigger companies. You go and look at lots of them and you'll have been the same, and in terms of, we've got 90 days payment terms.
That will cripple us. We can't afford to. We need to pay the bills. We need to eat. We need to pay the mortgage. We can't do that. And we were saying the other day, I really wish a government policy would be like a compulsory, like 28 days payment, because it cripples small businesses that they just don't get people paying, especially the big companies. 3 months, you can't survive that.
I remember working for a big corporate, and it was exactly that. The standard terms were 60 days end a month, even and you had all of these little companies that people wanted to use. It's like, you can't use them. Well, what? But I'm supporting local. Why can't I? You can't use them. So then they'd use petty cash. Then they get in trouble for that. And it's that understanding that A, one size doesn't fit all, and B, to use the smaller people, they can't wait 60 days end of month. You just you can't. And actually, what ultimately then you're borrowing money anyway. It's like credit cards. It's quite easier to get into debt than, okay, I can afford to pay this, so we'll pay it now, sort of thing. So it builds the trust as well. I think when you can all pay, you've all got that respect, this is how it works, then
and I'm sure there's a time where we'll be looking at it and look back and go, right, we've sorted this, we've worked it out. But it's certainly challenging in the early years.
We're constantly
of running a business.
Evolving, aren't we, and adapting to, as we get more and more people, we're like, okay, that doesn't work anymore. We need to do this. We need to change how we do things. So.
And that's why credit limit's always been part of a negotiation term as well. You'd always chuck that in as a bit of a curveball, and for some companies they just wouldn't realise. So you'd kind of get away with it, for want of a better phrase, or they'd give away on the credit terms just because they're desperate for that business. It's like, but then you're crippling them.
Yes, It goes back to those values piece. I think if you stick true to your values and say, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to aim to pay people within a very short period of time, etc. We're just trying to do things in the right way, trying to pay people above.
Keep everyone going.
Yeah. So if somebody comes and works for us, we're not paying them minimum wage. We're paying them above actual national living wage. And so that it is important, because we want people to enjoy working with us as well.
Do you get above national living wage, Sue?
We don't.
No, we don't.
That's the same when people come in and joke, and they're like, about Andy and I, like, I haven't had minimum wage for a long time.
Our little girl Jessica comes in, and so it's quite funny because we use it. She comes in every Saturday and works with me in the warehouse, and we do lots of maths and things like that. So it's quite easy doing it, counting. And she was negotiating a pay rate on Saturday. So I was like, I'll take that. I think it was £3 an hour, so it was what she wanted. I'll have that at the moment.
And I think I started on £3 an hour.
Yeah. And actually, I was having a conversation with one of the her friends' dads, and he was saying, it's so good for kids to understand about businesses. He said his daughter, she just thinks things happen like by magic. You click a button, and to be honest with you, probably most adults, you don't have any idea when you click that button on Amazon, or when you click that purchase, you see something like on Instagram, you think, oh, I really want that. and then it just magically appears.
fairies.
The fairies
Yeah.
just do it. And then, you know, and it's like, right, they press that button, and then me and Phil spring into action,
Yeah.
and we and so actually for Jessica to understand how it works and get that, you know, good work ethic, you know, is great.
Yeah, Emily asked me that this morning actually. Do you pay for this house? Yeah. How much is this house? Well, what? No, how much are you paying out? I said, well, you've got to pay for the house, the heating, the lights, the water. Oh. That's a lot of money, isn't it? It is a lot of money. And now, because she's still, and it's why I disagree with the whole getting rid of cash thing, because she learns that she gets given £10-15 for a birthday. But if she's like, can I order that on Amazon? You can, and I'll take this tenner away. Oh, okay. I'll think about that. Rather than, you can just order it on Amazon. Like you say, it magically appears. There's no value in that at all.
How much that is, whereas you've got the money in front of you, you can see how much it is. So now I think it's really important they keep cash and kids understand.
And she does. That. She negotiates exactly the same. She negotiates with me of how much she has to pay me back for stuff, or how much, like on holiday when she'd go and do the washing up, how much she was going to get paid for that. Funnily enough, she never forgets that. Yeah,
we'll give her a bit of advice.
Yeah, don't, because it's 50p a go at the moment, so I'm getting away with it.
Oh well, she can come and work for us. A bit cheaper, a bit more money.
Yeah, exactly. So so what's next? What's the plan? What's next? So you're working on things for Easter 2024.
Yeah, I think
only 6 months away.
I think consolidate at the moment. I think trying to review every process that we've got. Trying to take out the non-value add activity that we have. We've got a number of clients that we sort of like quoting at the moment and talking to, so hopefully they'll come on board relatively soon.
Yeah.
And I think, just continue to do the right things. And
I think rearranging the warehouse and kind of, we're I think that's what we need to do, and working out, like, you know, doing so much, we worked out actually, is this in the right position? Do we need to sort of have some more space?
Yeah, I think some of the interesting bits is around strategy. And so, like, if you look at cardboard boxes, you wouldn't believe how many types of cardboard boxes there are.
Yeah.
There's single wall, there's double wall, there's extra thick.
Yeah.
We just got to a point that says actually we're gonna streamline that. Because actually every single lot you have takes up more and more space.
Yeah.
So we'll just move to all double wall boxes. Because hopefully then, yes, okay, we've got less choice and they're slightly more expensive, but then we can potentially buy in bulk a little bit more. So hopefully offset some of those things.
You reuse your boxes as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's one of the bits that we try and do. So we have a sticker that goes on any box where we've been able to reuse. So it just says, in terms of we're trying to support the environment, so we'll use and reuse wherever possible. Not every client wants it, and some have bespoke boxes. I think the nicest bit was getting one of those back. So we actually got a box with our own label on it saying we reuse it, that somebody had resent back to us. So one, it helps from a cost point of view, but it also, it's a small bit that we do from an environmental point of view. So we don't use glue on our boxes because glue's particularly bad from an environmental point of view. We don't use polypropylene tape wherever we can avoid it. So we use paper-based tape, which recycles really nicely. So
what's polyproper? What's
you like sellotape?
The normal sellotape,
Okay.
and it also makes
that's not good.
a horrible noise as well.
Sue's learnt she's subjected to certain noises.
So if you take a normal box and it's got plastic tape on it, what happens to that when it goes into the recycling plant?
Oh, okay.
The effect will have to pull it all off.
Yeah.
But the nice paper-based tape, it looks good as well.
Yeah, it looks better.
It looks much better, and
it's quiet.
And it's quiet. And honestly, I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know anything. I thought a box was a box, and I'm learning it's not actually. You know, there's all this single wall, double walled, and then Phil's like saying things like void fill. We need to put some void. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
So I'm learning all this stuff, and now I'm getting, you know, what's that stuff that I really love? What's it called?
Hive wrap.
Hive wrap. it's really quite
the
cathartic.
stuff
You just
that
pull it, and
separates.
it's
Yeah.
just- it's quite, it's quite sad really, but I quite like that. And yeah, so
It's a whole new world from being a nurse, isn't it? So.
a whole new world. But honestly, it's quite nice. Just you've got to be on it to like make sure you get people's orders right.
Yeah.
But even if you're not feeling 100%, you can still do it, and it's not like everything else I've done is client facing, and you're helping people with either mental health issues or they're really sick. So you can get into you can just get into your own little zone and just do it, and it's crack on, and it's and I'm quite enjoying a change actually.
And I think that's almost the biggest misconception, isn't it, of packaging and that side of things, because it's like when people ask us for websites, they're like, I can just make my own website, but can you just do this? Well, no, you can't just do that, or you have to pay for this add-on or this or that and the other. And the same with packaging. They're like, oh, well, a box is a box. Well, no, it's different sizes of boxes and quality of boxes, and what are you packing, what are you sending, and how are you going to send it?
Stopping products moving and getting damaged. That's been that's been a big thing that I've learned. It's like actually you need to stop everything moving, and so that's why you need the void fill. And what do you use?
There's a whole TikTok video of explaining which delivery company and how they deliver the boxes. One will drop kick it.
Oh, you see, yeah.
They've all got a reputation.
Exactly.
But then even that, it's the same as we say it around ours. It's like the parcel force man knows me and knows my house, so he will bring anything, so Ben's plumbing and gas bits, he will bring to the shop because he knows he doesn't want to leave it there in full view. And it comes down to the actual person doing the delivery. You can't tarnish a whole company by one person, but going back to employing the right people, you do, don't you? So.
And it's interesting, you see everybody blames the parcel companies. I think we posted on social media, there were 5 instances last week where somebody couldn't put the right name on into filling your first name, filling your second name, and 5 people couldn't actually manage to do that. Well, you don't have a lot of chance then, if a fulfilment company or...
No, when I worked for a brand, and just getting the postcode right. And then you'd send it, and they'd be like, well, that's not my postcode. Well, that's the one you gave me. We can't check every single postcode. And it's scary how quickly, people are. But that's, it goes back to when it was, 80s, 90s, the customer's always right. No, they're not. But you can work with them.
We can work on that,
well, thanks for coming in. It's been lovely to speak to you. And Liam will put everything in the show notes about OS Suffolk. Are there a certain client you're looking for, or anyone you want to contact you?
I think if you're struggling with packing, if you're picking packing, if you're spending loads of time sat around you use the analogy, don't you? If you sat around your lounge floor covered in boxes.
Yeah.
And
you just need some help.
Yeah.
Some help, or you're not happy with who you're using at the moment, fulfillment company wise. Just get in touch and have a chat. It's not. You don't have to use us. It's just if you want some help, if you want some advice, we're very happy to have a chat with you.
Yeah, and I think that's summed up quite well, in that you are always happy to help and advice. You're not a big sales company. Sue is not on commission to get that big contract in and then leave you alone without the communication. And that's kind of, I'd say, your USP as a fulfilment company, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for coming in.
No
Thanks
worries.
for listening. And if you like, please like and subscribe as always. But if you particularly like this episode, or you know someone with side hustle or who's sat surrounded with boxes, please send this over to them so they can have a listen and see how OS Suffolk can make their lives easier. Thanks for listening to this episode. We really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please share with a friend who you think needs a bit of help with starting a business, or even their small business which they've already got going. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, which always helps a small business or small podcast like us. And check the show notes. We all have everything in there relating to the episode which you might need, might want to read, and links to anyone we've interviewed and certain subjects we've spoken about. And thanks for listening.